Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to build out a really crucial part of your Python toolkit, string manipulation. It's one of those skills that once you get it down, you'll find yourself using it literally everywhere. All right, let's jump right in. So let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. Think about these three different areas: cleaning messy data, building websites, and processing text files. What's the one thing, the one common thread that ties them all together? You guessed it, it's all about strings. I mean, think about it. Working with text is just something you can't escape in programming. And honestly, getting a good handle on strings is what separates code that just works from code that's elegant, efficient, and super robust. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the why strings are so fundamental. Then we'll cover the single most important rule you need to know about them. After that, we'll start filling our toolkit with ways to build, change, search, and split strings. And of course, we'll get into formatting before we wrap it all up with some best practices you can start using today. All right, first up, why should you even care so much about strings? Well, at the end of the day, pretty much any program you write is going to have to deal with text data in some way, shape, or form. And this stuff pops up absolutely everywhere. Got a messy data set from a CSV file? You're going to be using string methods to strip out weird spaces and characters. Grabbing input from a user on a website? That's a string. Building a URL to talk to an API? That's a string too. Basically, mastering these tools makes your code incredibly more powerful and flexible no matter what you're building. Okay, now before we touch a single string method, we have to talk about the single most important concept, what I call the immutable rule. Seriously, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. So here's the deal. In Python, strings are what we call immutable. That's a fancy word, but it just means you can't change a string after you've made it, at all. So when you use a method like .upper, you're not changing the original string. What's actually happening is Python is creating a brand new string in memory with your change. This is a huge gotcha for beginners. You have to assign the result to a new variable or back to the old one if you want to actually keep the change. Okay, with that critical rule locked in our brains, let's start filling up our toolkit. These are your bread and butter methods for tweaking and combining strings. First up, you can stick strings together with a simple plus sign. That's called concatenation. Then you've got your case-changing methods like .upper for all caps and .lower for all lowercase. Need to swap one piece of text for another? .replace is your best friend. And for cleaning up that annoying extra white space at the beginning or end of a string, .strip is an absolute lifesaver. Let's make this real. Imagine you've got a folder full of movie files, and the names are all messy with spaces in them like The Dark Knight. That's a real pain to work with on a command line, right? So a super common fix is to just replace all those spaces with underscores. And this is where a tool like .replace is just perfect. One line of code, movie.replace space underscore, and the problem is solved. It's super clean, super simple, and it just works. That's the kind of elegant code we love to write. All right, we know how to change strings, but what about taking them apart or looking for things inside of them? That's what this next set of tools is all about. Oh man, the .split method is one you're going to use all the time. You give it a sentence, and by default, it just chops it up wherever it sees a space and hands you back a nice, clean list of the words. It's the absolute easiest way to break a sentence down into its parts. And of course, there's a flip side to that coin, the .join method. This one does the exact opposite. You take a list of words, you tell it what glue to use to stick them together, like a space, and boom, you've got a single string again. These two, .split and .join, they're like a dynamic duo for restructuring text. Okay, this next one is a classic gotcha for Python developers. We have two methods that seem to do the same thing, .find and .index. Both look for a substring and tell you where it starts. But here's the crucial difference. If .find doesn't see the text, it just calmly returns -1, no big deal. .index, on the other hand, it throws a big, angry error and can crash your program. So here's the rule. When in doubt, use .find. It's safer. Only use .index when you are 100% positive the text will be there. Now we get to what I think is one of the most powerful tools in our entire toolkit, string formatting. This is how you create dynamic text by weaving variables and even expressions right into your strings.
So for a long time, we had the .format method, and it works. You'll still see it in older code. But then F strings came along, and wow, what a game changer. All you do is put the letter F right before your string, and suddenly you can pop your variables directly inside curly braces. It is so much cleaner, so much easier to read, and it's faster too.
And the cool thing is, F-strings are way more than just for sticking variables in. You can actually run code right inside those curly braces. Look at this example. We're calculating the total cost, price times quantity, and formatting it to 2 decimal places, all inside one clean, readable line. It's just awesome.
Whew. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's pull back for a second and boil all of this down to a few key best practices you can take with you as you write your code.
Rule number 1, just use F-strings. They're the new standard for a reason. Number 2, and I'm going to say it again, never forget that strings are immutable. You always have to save the result. 3, choose the right tool for the job. Don't use .index when a simple in check will do. And finally, always think about the edge cases. What if the user gives you an empty string? Thinking about that stuff will make your code way more robust.
So there you have it. You've officially got a solid starter toolkit for manipulating strings in Python. You've got the tools to build, change, search, and format text like a pro. The only question now is, what are you going to build? What's the first text-based problem you're going to go tackle with these new skills?